Let's talk about theory. See, a lot of people misunderstand that concept. When it comes down to theory, they think, okay, so you're gonna actually tell me some special ideas about, like how to play it. I love that. I love to hear that. Truth is, no. Really, it's not about that. When it comes down to knowing theory, the most important thing you care about is the plan, the sequence where you'd like to have your pieces go to, and overall the different type of complications that you can encounter along the way. Is there more to that? Of course, but you don't care about the rest of it. See, people will deviate all the time. That shouldn't bother you. Not at all. Don't let what your opponent's planning to try to take you off course. So let's talk about how you can handle complex lines and theory. We're going to see a game that was played by no other than Carlsen himself, and he was playing versus Vougar Gashimov. So let's take a look and see what happened in this game. After the moves of knight f3 and c4, he played g3, bishop to the g2, and then this move. So this was a great setup, actually. Let's take a look and see what happened. As soon as that sequence took place, obviously the bishop and the rest of the pieces of white look pretty terrific as they are. And basically, after this, then black continued with bishop e7, d4 exchange, and d6. So this was actually quite a good setup. What I have to admit is that white is fairly strong. He has the set of pieces just beautifully lined up and ready. Black played with bishop g5 a6, and now there was bishop takes f6. Now this is really an interesting move. Now why did white really play that? Well, it was played for a couple of reasons, for a number of reasons I like to say, but the major one, in my opinion, the major one was because with that exchange, we take out the black knight. And the black knight is one of the key pieces that he'd like to use towards our center. So by taking it off, there is no danger. And this is pretty important. There is no chance for black to jump out, do some sort of threats or different type of tactics. And we care about this a lot, I have to say. So, what is actually going after this move? After that was played, essentially black has a little problem to decide what to do. So he actually just decided to play with here, this one, and now short castles. So it's a setup. It is a setup. It's not a perfect setup, but he's actually making it look good. And then there is also the idea of playing for queen e7. So he would like to play for maybe after queen e7. Possibly there is the resource with which black will just play with rook to the d8, and he can make it work good. That's not bad. So black's got his setup and activity. Makes sense. What's happening next? Well, white plays rook to the d1. Strong move. Not a perfect one. Very strong, however. Why? Now black's got a weakness. Because of this fantastic activity that we're having, there's really no reason to wait. This is important. There's no reason to wait. Line up the pieces and let's create the extra pressure. This is a wonderful move. Reaching out for the d6 and having black down, back on this place. It's great. Good stuff. Maybe not perfect, but definitely quite good as it hangs. And it seems to work. That's most important. Rook fd1, bishop e7, knight e4. Now this one is a brilliant resource because we're actually reaching for the d6 plans. We have the rook from the d1 that's opening up a huge attack against black. And that's basically all we need. It's very, very interesting in this position. So we have the rook, we have the setup, and we have the extra pressure that's coming against black. So what's going on next move? Well, after this is actually quite interesting because as soon as we played it like this, black played with bishop takes c4, rook a7, and rook to c7, hoping to get ready, but it didn't matter because the reality is that as soon as he plays it just like this, white's ready to continue with rook to the d2. He is now set to make the move of rook to the d1 happen, and then we have the extra shot against the d6. So while black is certainly worried, not having that many things to do in this position, white will be fantastic. It's a good lineup for both development and a resource to make it work. So what's going on next? I mean, after rook to the d2, black played with rook c5, rook d1, queen c7, but then there was b3, king h8, and queen b1. Yeah, that feels like a bit of a backward move that most people will not really enjoy. But I love that setup. We have this actual threat that's coming against the black d6 pawn, and while black's got a lot to worry about, white simply continues to strengthen up the position and keep black down behind. Alright, this is good stuff actually. So what's coming next in this position? Well, after that was b played, after this queen b1, black did this here, and queen to c8. White plays with a move of rook to c2. It's interesting that a lot of times you'd have to wait. That means not really starting an attack, but rather letting the position to sort of build up. And then by simply building it up a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, we're going to get to the point where there is a possible breakthrough. It's very interesting. So no need for you to be actually worried about any tactics or whatever it is. So what's coming next, actually? After the move of a4, black played rook to the e8 in this position. And so actually after that, we have the rook to the d8, queen a2. All those moves were made by white not with an intention to warn off black and make anything that dangerous. But truth is, we just step in and we let ourselves to stay forward, to keep our the position behind, and you see, like, this is what we were going for. Strong opportunity to keep everything together, and just actually in this case, black played this, queen to the d2, then knight c2 is played. And then we have that move of knight of the b4 coming forward to throw that rook at the d5, that knight at the d5. We got the b6 and d6 and all the nice looking moves that we could just go by. And this is how we are looking for. Most of the important things that I like to admit about such kind of positions is really just the way on how things work. Stay true to the attack, but do not rush it. It's very important. Rushing it is going to be a bad idea. We simply want to keep it all together until that point comes where we actually going to find a nice attacking option. No other choices need to be taken differently. So it was a great move, and ultimately after the move of knight to the c2, black played with a move opponent to the b5. Not a perfect move, but I guess he just wanted to do it. And so after b5, white plays 8x to the b, knight a3, and knight x to the c4. Strong resource of setting white's pieces together, keeping up the extra pressure, and holding black down. That's all we want. Keep the opponent a little bit behind. It's great variation of the tactics that take place. And so I mean, the truth is that after the move of knight x to the c2 and knight x to the c4 is played, black has really nothing to do. He actually played with the move of d5, which led to bishop takes the d5, and then we see this bishop really taking down there. Black's got a big problem. f7 is really horrible. Most of black's pieces are down and back in development, and white is wonderful. Bishop takes d5, queen h3, attack, exchange, and then after knight e3, white played knight g4. He sets up the pawn to advance and keep up with the attack. And so this is a really interesting thing to see, that you see first and foremost just to concentrate. This is a very valuable thing, to concentrate on expanding, taking the opportunity to push black down, and it was great. So this is basically what I like to admit. Most important thing, keep the opponent back under pressure. So let's take a look at a couple other theoretical examples. Now the theoretical idea here was to see how white is using a maneuver with the bishop to leave black with an even bigger weakness inside of his position, and that's something amazing. Next one is quite interesting too. Let's take a look at a game that was played between Anthony Miles himself, one of the great players of the past, and his opponent was actually Efim Geller, again, an amazing chess player. So basically the game started with the moves of c4, bishop g2, knight f3, which was nice. Then basically black played bishop to the e7, so this was quite interesting. And then after the move of bishop to the e7, white picked up to play b3, bishop b2, castles, and e3. And in some way we realize what this whole thing is about, really. It's the whole thing here, so to speak, is about white playing alongside d4. So you could actually just jump in case black exchanges. We can have the recapture taking place. It's a beautiful thing. e5 is also going to be solidly prepared and advanced with. So it's a beautiful position. Black plays d4. Exchange. Now, sometimes you are going to get limited in such a way. That's okay. Do not worry. There is a maneuver which allows white, or promises him rather, a simple development in the same way as it often happens with the other lines. So what we're doing is white is setting up for the move of a3, and then actually after the move of pawn up to the a3, when black plays with a5, white plays alongside the d3. And so this is great. This is really, truly a very good position. There is absolutely nothing to be concerned of. We have the e4 square totally under our control, and we are ready to build on that and expand through knight e2 to a square like knight to the e4. There's plenty of things that white can do, and he wants to do them. He really does. He really does wanna. So what about black? What is he gonna do? Well, let's take a look. Actually, this is gonna be interesting. After the move of pawn up to the d3, black can play bishop c5, and this is where white sets up his own knight on the on this square, so he has a great shot towards the e4. You can think about advancing out there on the e4. Things look good. Doesn't necessarily need to be great, but it is very, very good. And it continues in a very similar manner. e5 is what black keeps going. He actually plays alongside this move. And so after that move of pawn up there, white plays knight g5, bishop f3, and the exchange with the queen. Now the e4 square is definitely under the attack, so black's got enough to be worried about, to be honest. But most importantly, white continues his build-up. He does not have to worry about tactics or about anything else going. So things look really good here. I mean, at least in my opinion, they do. It's like, again, the structure itself sort of directly shows or points out in what way white is supposed to develop his own pieces so that they could step forth and feel good about it. And we realize what that is really, just the queen and the knight putting pressure against the f7. A lot of the other pieces like the rook from e1, even the knight from the d2 being just as good. It is nice. It really is. And it's actually going to be much more that white's going to get shortly after that. Let's see. h6, knight, g to e4. Apparently, we step forth. Knight takes to the e4. Black's intention is kind of clear, getting ready to drive the knight back, but it's okay. It's fine. Nothing dangerous could appear to stop white. Knight takes d4, bishop f8, and now bishop to the c1. And so now we're realizing the value. When white's bishop comes out on the from the d2, it is going to be really like looking for a move of b4. And then there's a lot more to that. I mean, it's not just that type of a thing. It's just we have this opportunity to step forth. We have an idea to move in, into attack against black with the pawn and with the other pieces. So it's great. Black played rook e6, pawn to the h4. Great move, if you ask me. It holds black off, keeps him down. He cannot make moves like f5, g5, or any of this kind. And while black is behind, playing bishop e7, white simply plays alongside h5 to resourcefully cut off moves like rook to the g6 and pawn to the g6 or anything else. And white's up to do queen g4. He can go for bishop d2. He can deliver f4 if he wants to. And it feels perfect. It's great. Queen comes up to the f5 too. You know, the really interesting thing about this game is how white's setting it through. It's just every piece now for white feels like it's taking the best possible place. Like the limitation over f5 right now. And again, we're talking about structure. I really like to talk about structure because in my opinion, structure is everything. If you get the right structure, you get it all figured out. It takes only a few extra steps to do it right. And so, white knew that, and he just did it. Queen f5, so black doesn't have the ability to step in and make something else. So things are great. Okay, what happens next move? After queen f5, rook b8, I think white should have just played a4, and then it was like g4, g5. You could have gotten a fantastic, beautiful advantage. So it was an interesting game looking at all these moves and variations and how they could develop. It's not to say that I hate the line or the sequences and everything, but yeah, it was important. So those are my thoughts about this game, how it went, like what could have gone a little bit differently, and all these type of things. So let's take a look and see a couple of different type of ideas. So going back to the earliest stage, once again, you see there are different options, different choices you could pick, in order to make your attack and your possibilities work. But keep that in mind so you understand what the concepts are and the right principles to follow. It's good line, good sequences, and very significant tactics. Alright, so let's discuss another interesting way on how the game actually, how it's all developed. This is a game in which one of the best grandmasters, Neil MacDonald, approached the English with the so-called double fianchetto system. One of my personal favorites. I really like it, and I really think it's quite a deep line. So what is it about? Well, after c4, e6, knight f3, g3, and b3, white got both of his bishops on the squares of g2 and b2, and he's ready. He can think about moves like d4 and others. So it's really a good line. After that type of a move, then black played with knight to the c6 in this position, and so actually it's quite interesting. After this move, white plays this here, and knight to c6. Not a bad line. Development seems good. Black is getting ready for the d4, but the double fianchetto provides this very unique opportunity for white. It provides him with a chance to stay well. And while black is definitely quite behind, white feels stronger. So he sets up. What's coming up next? Well, black played with here, and then actually after the exchange, black plays queen c7, and then there was the move of d3. So black plays with the move of a6, and then white plays alongside knight to f1. I do not think this was a great move, honestly. I don't think it works great, and I don't think this is an excellent move. But it's okay. White keeps the flexibility open. So even if you do not know that opening, you don't have to worry. You just still have what it takes to make your position grow. Knight a7, of course. White's just keeping up the position straight. But it didn't matter because after that move, white simply picked up here, here, takes this one, and f4. Black played with a move of pawn up to the b5, 8x to the b, and f5, which opens up. So it's quite interesting. Everything that white did does not seem to fit too well with the resources that's, with everything that's happening on the king side. So it does kind of feel a little off. And yet, the preparation and the build-up that are really happening, that are really taking place, are awesome. This is what we want. Build-up, perfect build-up, in fact, with pawns and pieces helping and protecting and setting up and working with one another. And when that is placed, we could easily break, whether it will break down with a move like f5 or whether we'll have g4 and other effective possibilities. It's already a matter of time, but it works great. The idea is quite good. Black played bx to the c, dx to the c, rook to the b6, rook a2, queen goes right back there, which was nice. And then white plays knight f4. Again, even with a bad setup, actually, it's very interesting. Even with a bad setup, it still worked for white. It still did work out in the way that's the white would really wanted it to. And surely enough, with the e6 on the shot after most of black's own pieces set behind and everything, it's great stuff. Black played rook to the d8, bishop e1, even g4 ultimately happens in the game. So it's great. It's really, really good here. That's what really worked out for white. Let's take a look at another interesting example, showing us the flexibility and the approach that white's supposed to take in order to use this successfully. After the castling, knight d7, queen c2, we see another idea in case black attempts, not that he's going to do it, but in case he attempts to snatch our pawn. There's no problem about that. If he attempts to snatch that pawn, we are going to let him sort of try, of course. We're not going to literally allow him to do this. But then the good news is that there is not a whole lot more he can do. We have him a little bit backsided. We have this c4 already targeted. And we've got the rest of our pieces perfectly well inside, so that they can advance and do whatever we need them to. White started it off very, very well. And then after knight a3, we realize how black's feeling bad. It's not that it's terrible, it's passive, but it's just doesn't have too much. Now white even sacrifices a pawn for this. But it's actually quite interesting because we see the terrible situation for black. He doesn't have as much to follow. He doesn't have that many tactical things or whatever. And white is doing great. Step up is good. The bishop to the b is going to be an excellent way to follow, and we can make a lot of interesting similar ideas. So what happened for black to follow? I mean, ultimately black what came out was that black played this move, bishop e6, and after the bishop e6, white played b4, queen b3, exchange takes. He thought that by exchanging the queens, black is going to resolve the problem. Now, did he? No, he did not. It just looks like it, but looking like it does not make it like that. White plays b5, which is a perfect candidate. Black did c5 himself, and then there was d3. Knight d7, knight d2. After black came out with his bishop back to the d5 square, white did e4 here, and then there was f4, f6, e5. What I really love about this structure, so to speak, is how it all really felt. So it's not just, oh, hey, look at a pawn. This is a great pawn to move with. I mean, it is a great pawn. There's no doubt about that. But it's not about this. It is about how black's limited. He's cut off, devoid of possibilities. So white's really doing it great, and black has horrible pieces. Played bishop to the d5 here. there captures the bishops coming up into c6, and most of black's own forces are horrible. He cannot get out of this, not at least in any safer route. There's obviously a lot of problems, but then white can also think of a way to play with, this rook e1. So it is good. Take the time to build things up carefully, and one step after another. No reason to go different than that. And yes, it's just actually after that type of a move happened, black played with g6, queen knight c4. This one, knight e4. And after that, there was knight e5 check. What's interesting is that if black plays with f takes to the e, then we can have the move of f takes to the e taking place. We got f6 under pressure, and all the rest of black's pieces are down behind. So this is great. Exchange, bishop f5, and now there was the move of knight x to the c5 that took place. Here, d4. This one, and next move was rook takes f5. What is so nice about this is we could see it's not just about black seeping down and having this bad pieces. It's just white dominating due to the wonderful resource. Just like he's got all these great pieces, and he's able to utilize them in different ways, and that's what was so good about it. No complications, just everything in place. Okay, let's take a look. What happened after rook takes f5 is that black played g takes f, and actually after the g takes f move, then white kept on with a move of e6. There was this here, and then knight x to the b8. Rook takes to the a7 actually did come out very quickly. So while black is horrible, we just keep destroying the position. We got the a7. You got the e7, we got the two bishops, you have the extra pressure that's being created, and we have everything perfect. No way on how black can make the defense out. It's great. An interesting part of this game presents the beginning, and especially the idea on how white approached this with queen c2, knight a3. A lot of these ideas are practical. A lot of them. You cannot theoretically remember and think about each of these principles. But what was great about it is that white actually sets up, white set up his own pieces. He made them work together, and got black against a serious trouble. So these are my suggestions on how you can handle the theoretical aspect